And as I look back on my career and I see where that led me and how that was a catalyst for other directions that I went, I can't complain at all. It was difficult at the time, and certainly it hit my ego in a big way. But it was instrumental in guiding me to other formats and other cities. I had to move as a result of that, but moving to Seattle was a good move for me and my family.
Welcome once again to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs, and our conversation continues now with radio personality and singer-songwriter Kenny Noble Cortes. Now, last time he was talking about his time at KOST 103.5 and getting to work a bunch of shifts there. In fact, just about every shift possible. And he told us last time about how the most difficult shift was not the morning drive, but in fact, love songs on the coast. Now, Kenny, why was that so?
Well, there were two reasons. One was Johnny K. Mm-hmm. Johnny K demanded perfection, and and everybody respected him because he wasn't a disc jockey's program director from the standpoint of being friendly, warm and friendly and personable and all of that. He was like a father figure who was very stern. He demanded results. He had certain things that they had to go his way, and if they didn't, you heard from him. And he listened to the station. I don't know how he did it, but he listened 24/7. And the one thing that all the jocks feared was the strobe light hotline going off in the KOST control room, because you knew it was Johnny. And Johnny was wherever he went, he was listening to the radio station, and especially if I was working on weekends, and if I did something good, the hotline would flash, scare the hell out of you, because it was like landing lights at LAX. It was just like, it was a humongously bright strobe light that would go off in the control room. And so he would call me and say, "Hey, Kenny, how you doing? Hey, Johnny, yeah, great. How's it going? Oh, it's going good. Yeah, driving. Hey, you sound great. Oh, by the way," and then he would give you a critique of something you had just said that he didn't like necessarily. So every conversation went like that. So it was a little bit intimidating, but he was a great guy to work for. But I gave up that job, which paid. It was a union job. It paid pretty darn good money for 1980. I was at KFI KOST from 1985. I was there for a little over a year, 1985 and 1986. And my dream job was to do mornings at a classic rock station. And when KLSX came online, they were the classic rock station. And I said, if it's anything I ever do, I've got to work for KLSX. Like George Patton or like George C. Scott in Patton,
Mm-hmm.
A whole world at war, not a part of it. God forbid, So Don Hagen hired me, and then that was 1986, and I worked with Joni Carroll. I worked with Joni Carroll.
Oh yeah,
and we had a good morning show. We had a great morning show. Tom Yates, was the program director who was hired after I was hired. And then for whatever reason, I don't know, I'll never know that reason, but within 3 months, I know what happened. KMET let go a lot of their heritage DJs because they changed format at the time. And so great DJs were let go. And they were available, and I wasn't a heritage DJ, so Bob Moore wanted to hire some of those DJs that had heritage reputations around Los Angeles, and so he did, and they let me go, and so that didn't go over well with my wife because I left a really good job for that, and then after 3.5 months, I was let go, and it wasn't because I didn't sound good. And Tom Yates liked me; he was just doing what management told him, management told him to do. So that was kind of a sad episode in my life. But you know how I'm always a believer that things work out for the best. I really believe that. And as I look back on my career and I see where that led me, and how that was a catalyst for other directions that I went, I can't complain at all. It was difficult at the time, and certainly it was it hit my ego in a big way. But it was instrumental in guiding me to other formats and other cities. I had to move as a result of that, but moving to Seattle was a good move for me and my family, and then that just led from Seattle back to Los Angeles, back to Seattle to Miami to Denver, and I was in Denver for 15 years, and those were good years.
Wow. And in Los Angeles, you were also, after KPOL, you were at KFOX 93.5, which had been owned by game show legend Jack Barry. Now, was it Jack Barry Productions that hired you, or was there a new ownership at the station by that point?
I think it was new ownership at the time. I remember Russ Shell was the program director, and this was 1980. It was just prior. I left just before Mount St. Helens blew up. A couple of months before, because Mount St. Helens blew up in May of 1980, and then and I had moved in, I think it was February of 1980, back to L.A., working for Russ. I don't recall the ownership at the time. I don't think it was the organization that you mentioned.
And the format was country music, but the signal was weak, and so it didn't reach many pockets of the basin.
No, it was a Class A station. I think it was 3,000 watts. And once you left the city limits, once you left the Bay Area, it barely got into Los Angeles. I mean, barely. So,
and then
we were a South Bay radio station, and that was pretty much it.
What were some special, I guess, outreaches they did to the South Bay area in order to kind of make up for the lack of a signal? Any types of special, contests or events that took place in order to keep the station in the public eye?
There was literally zero contest prize budget. It was, I think, we'd give away, hey, I've got the latest Toto CD, and we'll take the 30th caller. Well, we'd only get like 3 callers, so we had to pretend that the third caller was the 30th caller. It was kind of like that. So there was really no big budget. Russ, to his credit, he was a really good program director and a good people person, and he did the best he could to promote the radio station. But the truth is, we had no ratings, and I couldn't even listen to it on the way home. At the time, I lived in San Clemente, and as soon as I left the South Bay, the station was gone. But it's interesting, and let me fast forward a little bit, going to 1995, Rob Edwards programmed KACD, and that was Santa Monica, and I think KBCD, Newport Beach.
That's right.
And that they had a little bit increase in power, but the two stations simulcast. But you had to change frequency to keep the station going. That was the only problem. Not too many people were into that. But those were good days, and at least that way, on the way home from Redondo Beach down to San Clemente, I could listen to the radio station if I cared to, and people could. We had to transfer over to KBCD and listen to KBCD Newport Beach. From there, it would reach into probably the middle part of Orange County. So those were difficult days, but it was great working for Rob, and we had a lot of fun there. Oh, and for me personally, working for KACD was great because China Smith was doing mornings.
That's right.
And I had met China Smith when I went to work at K-West in Los Angeles, and K-West in Los Angeles, and he was doing. I'm trying to think. He might have been doing afternoons, and I got to know him then. And what a great! He was one of my heroes when I was in LA, and I would listen to. Let's see, was he on KLOS?
Yeah, one of the rock stations. Yeah.
Yeah, it was either KLOS or KMET. I can't remember right now, but I just loved his delivery, and he was so personable, and he was just so cool sounding on the air, and he sounded so real. So he was a personal hero of mine, and to be able to meet him and then to fill in for him and China when he came on, he did middays, I did mornings, and then he did middays, and always he sent me down, and this was in Santa Monica. He would send me down to the mall and to fetch him a latte or something. And I was quite willing to go fetch whatever for China because he's such a hero of mine. But I'll tell you a quick story. The midday host at KWST was J.J. Jackson, and I got to know J.J. and because I filled in for him. But this was just a couple of months prior to the format flip to some, I don't know what it was, dance format or something. Yeah,
I was calling the station of the 80s. It was Top 40. They had Lord London and Engelman from KEarth 101. But it only lasted about a year.
You just mentioned two names I haven't heard in a million years, London and Engelman. That's funny. That's great. Anyway, so I got to know him, and there was a special meeting where they were going to tell the staff about the format flip and that, sorry, but you're all going to be out of work. So I filled in for JJ, and that to me, that was like, you might as well have given me a Purple Heart or some kind of special medal because I just felt so honored to be able to fill in for J.J. Jackson. But when he came back from the meeting, I remember asking him, I said, so J.J., what are you going to do? And he says, oh, I've already got a job. I said, oh, really? What's that? And he says, well, there's this new cable channel. It's called MTV. And they've hired me as one of their first video DJs. I have to move to New York City, but he said, I'm really looking forward to it. And I said, all right, well, congratulations, man. And, of course, at that time, MTV wasn't even around. I think MTV actually came in. It was either late 1980 or early 1981. But in any case, he was one of their first video DJs. And so I felt like, well, hey, I knew that guy when. So I really liked him, and unfortunately, both he and China passed at the age of like 56, and I think they both had heart problems, and that was a sad thing that happened to both of them. But I feel very privileged and blessed to have known both of them under those circumstances.
This is the Talking Archive. We're speaking with Kenny Noble Cortes, and next time we'll be talking more about China Smith, as well as Charlie Tuna, and the time he got to meet the legendary Wolfman Jack.